I'm Hannah from Brooklyn, New York, and hi to my Gray Sheet family. Um, Move my camera down. Okay, is that okay? I do what everybody else does, which is weigh and measure my 3 meals a day. I commend to my sponsor. I don't eat between those meals. If I do get the food thoughts, I do the next right thing for me. So that means that A, I get on a meeting, B, I do some fellowship, C, I make outreach calls, D, I go for a walk as it states in uh, living sober and or living abstinent. And my higher power, family, and abstinence keep me moving one foot in front of the other, not necessarily in that order. Okay, my journey um, starts when I was really small. I'm 45 years old or 45 years young. And I was born a compulsive overeater. I come from a family of Holocaust survivors and who we lived in a multi-generational house, and they um food equal love and love equaled food, and there was a portion distortion. So if you wanted to be loved by them, or if you wanted to be accepted by them, then you ate. And they didn't mean any harm. I was born in Israel and moved to Boston area, Boston, Massachusetts, when I was 6 months old. And my mother recalls, she goes, "You were such a good baby because you ate and slept the entire time on the plane." So even from a very young age, um, they thought that I should be eating. And and I did. I mean, I found food wherever. I found the garbage to be particularly, it's when they wanted to show us love that we got into the addictive substances. For me, the stuff that we abstain from is an addiction. For me, I'm an addict. I'm a compulsive overeater and a food addict, and that's what I usually call myself. Um, and I remember, like, some of my fondest memories is getting into the food we don't eat, going wanting to do laundry with my mother, because that's when there was a 7-Eleven across the street from the laundromat, and that's how we bonded. In fact, she was a eating buddy. Um, so what happened to me? I was by the time Oh, and puberty hit me hard. Uh, by the time I was 12 years old, I went from a size kids outfit needing a 12 misses. And because I am less than 5 feet, I needed a petite misses, size 12. So the fact that here I am, not even a teenage, a preteen, and needing Mrs. clothing, where they didn't really, in the 80s and the 90s is when, I was being raised, and they didn't have those cute outfits. We were subject to, they didn't even want to put us in, now they say, oh, they have all these, I'm watching YouTube videos, and they have all these, like, where they embrace anybody's size, anybody's sexuality, anybody's body shape. They didn't do any of that. So life as an addict meant that I attracted an addict. And how did I get into Gray Sheet? That is what I want to concentrate on. It does say in the promises that we don't forget the past, but but we don't have to stay there either. Um, about 15 years ago, I got into Gray Sheet with who I call my first Earth Angel. And she happens to be my sponsor currently. She dragged me to this meeting, and I saw everybody sitting in a circle saying the mantra. And I went, have I just been put from one place on Earth and then put into some Martian land? I hated it. I'm being honest. If there's anything that people know about me, is I'm brutally honest. Um, and while I was a people pleaser at that point, I now know where that sometimes you need a healthy boundary. So luckily, I don't have a good sense of directions. So I was forced to stay because had I known how to get home in the dark, I would have taken myself on the public transportation and figured it out. But I was too scared to do that because my sense of direction, especially in the dark, is non existent. So I stayed. And where they said, oh, is anybody available to sponsor? Nobody raised their hand. So after the meeting, everybody's chatting with each other, and I'm just kind of standing waiting for my ride. And somebody said to me, well, I see you're new. I said, hi. Um, how do I get a sponsor if nobody raises their hand? She goes, um, well, I don't have really time to sponsor you, but I'll at least get you started. So I got a copy, and she told me what was on the gray sheet, and I wrote it down and got myself a scale. But I was missing the willingness. This is a we program, and I was missing the willingness. I was missing the point. So my journey ended there for a long time. I went out of the gray sheet room. Again, I was a people pleaser, and I had a uh, family member by choice who told me, what are you doing? This is too restrictive. All the negatives. And I went off. Not completely. I dabbled in OA, which is why I will never knock OA. But when I went into my first OA room and I said, by the way, is this gray sheet? And they were like, no, we're not those weirdos. That should have been my first clue that, you know, it's not what they're doing, it's how you're doing it. So the fact that if you are, how do I explain it? If you're following what it says in the big book, the OG, as I call it, our roadmap, you wouldn't knock any other program. But again, I didn't know anything. And I realized that I wanted I wanted something. I was missing something. I dabbled in other food things, too numerous to count, and some of them were just downright dangerous. Restricting food groups, losing hair. That should have been that was when I was younger. And how did I find how did I find my way home? Because this is home. I could literally call any one of you crying and be heard, be understood, and be loved. So how did I come home? My journey started 6 years ago. And I actually came in through the back door through a different fellowship. Again, addicts attract each other. and I married an addict. So I thought through that program, I was doing fellowship, I was doing service actually. I was reading from the literature at a meeting, and it says, have you become an addict yourself to deal with the addiction of others? Do you abuse food, money, sex, power? And I couldn't continue reading that passage because I was crying way too much. And I had to admit, if I'm going to keep my side of the street clean, I can't control it, I can't cure it, and I didn't cause it. To this day, he's still not in a program, but I am. I realized that I need to be honest with myself. So there I met my second Earth Angel, and she became my first sponsor. And she said, I see that this hit you. And she also saw that I was a very large person. Like I said, less than 5 feet, and I was over 250 pounds. So I am now maintaining about 100-pound weight loss. Um, and I'm okay with that. And I said, yes, I need help. So she said, are you willing to take the cotton balls out of your ears and put them elsewhere? I don't want to say put it in your mouth, but are you willing to will? And I said, yeah, I'm willing. So she told me to call her at 6 o'clock that evening, not 6:01, not 6:05, not 5:55, 6. And get ready with a pen and a paper. So I called her at 6, had my notebook ready. She gave me what was on the gray sheet. She then told me to call her back in at 6:15. She gave me 10 minutes to write down what I was committing. And she goes, don't commit on the phone while you're on the phone with me. Write it down. Okay. So this girl who has trouble following directions followed her second direction, wrote down, and she says, write down on the top your day count and write down your food with breakfast, lunch, dinner, in that order. Protein, uh, veg, fat, in that order. She goes, don't commit anything out of order. Okay, fine. Mea culpa, mea culpa. Okay. And I called her back at 6:15, wrote it. She goes, beautiful. Um, you have a scale? I said, yes, I have a scale. You told me to buy the scale. I bought the scale. She goes, good. You're ready to weigh and measure. She goes, in fact, I'm going to change your directive. And you're not just weighing and measuring breakfast, lunch, and dinner. You're going to start with dinner tonight. So what do you want to have tonight? I went, I didn't even know if I had any abstinent food in my refrigerator. She goes, you could find something. I'm sure you can find something. And I did. So I waited, and I committed to her the dinner and the breakfast, lunch, and dinner for the next day. And I called her again at our designated time. I got about 3 months, and then I had a slip and would start again, and again 2 months and have a slip. And the thing that I noticed was, in retrospect, is that I just wasn't willing. to not take my will back. That's it. It's as simple as that. Not to take the will back. So, and then came the big no matter what. But if anything has taught me in 2020, we're now in 2021, but if anything that 2020 taught me with the pandemic is how to stay abstinent, even in a pandemic, even if people are dying around you, that there's no matter what that you can't overcome, period. Uh, so 2016, I fell off the wagon. How did I fall off the wagon? Very simple. My father in law passed. And I felt the world fall in. Remember, I'm an emotional eater. So, some of the compulsivities that I dealt with is I lived in a studio apartment with the four of us. How did I think that I could hide eating food when the table is literally 2 feet from where the front door opened is beyond me? But I tried, you know, and to this day, the meals that I love the most are my breakfast and then my supper. The meal that I hate is my lunch. And that's usually because I'm at works and I have to weigh and measure. But it's not even that I have to weigh and measure. I don't care about weighing and measuring in front of people, places, or things. It's just the fact that there's so much emotional garbage that goes on during my workday that it, and that's 5 minutes, perfect. That it's very hard for me to even like choke it down without somebody staring at my food saying hi. um and I just want to hide, but there is no places to hide. So where so how did I get back? um I took a 10-month hiatus and scared the heebie jeebies out of my co-addict father. He says, it's not the fact that you gained your weight back. He goes, but how quickly you gained the weight back. Because at that point, I lost 60 pounds and gained 50 of it back. Um, but I went to Boston because, again, couldn't live with an addict. It didn't cause it and can't cure it. So I was not living in a very safe space. And I went home to Boston. There, in my trips of going back and forth to New York, I met up with my current sponsor, and she gave me a branch. And she said, what happened to you? You were doing so good, and then you fell off. What is going on with you? I said, she goes, do you want to start again? I said, yes. She goes, okay, good. I will call somebody to see if anybody's available to that you could contact. And she gave me a branch because the next day I'm packing up to go to Boston, and she calls me and she goes, I decided to sponsor you myself. And that was 3 years ago. So my absence date is May 15th, 2019. So what happened? Um, so truthfully, I am celebrating 25 months um, of back to back abstinence. But so you can ask, what happened? I had a slip. I had a 1 day slip. I felt my feelings, weighed and measured my supper, and then continued to proceed to eat a disgusting fat, making myself very sick in the process because I felt my feelings. At that point, she gave me my tools, which are my lifeline today. So this is what has changed. This is what's changed the unwilling to the willing is the tool of outreach. She says you're going to make at least three calls a day. More if you need, even if it's just to say, hi, my name is. She goes, you're going to get to face meetings. Well, the pandemic has made that even better because I didn't have to, I could get on to face in different time zones. It was beautiful. So at that time, I was going to like one on Sunday, one on Tuesday, and then my third face to face, I was doing a Zoom. Some of the established Zooms. She also said you're going to do service. As soon as you hit 90 days, you're going to start sponsoring people. You're going to do service. And here's the funny story. This is a girl who said, I will take on service positions. The only one I will not take on is a booker. I don't want to be the booker. I don't know anybody. I can't imagine anybody wanting to pick up the phone for me. Not 15 minutes later. No, correction. If I'm going to be honest, it was probably more like a half an hour later, 45 minutes later. At the end, we had a business meeting. And they're like, hey, you're new. 1 minute. You're new to this. How about you being the booker? And I went, okay. And I did it for a 3-month time slot. So, because I have 1 minute wrap up, I'm going to just leave you guys with 3 little points. This is from How It Works, page 60. Our description of the alcoholic, the chapter to the agnostic, and our personal adventures before and after make 3 clear, pertinent ideas. 1A, we were alcoholic or a food addict, cannot manage our own lives. B, probably no human power could have relieved us of our alcoholism. And C, that God and could if he were sought. And just for today, I'm going to add to my mantra, just for today, Hannah, I don't need your help. Love, God. Thanks for letting me share, and I wish you a great night.